Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, world. This is Brian Collins. I'm going to be the Q&A host here for the Globatalent Room, and I am joined by co-founder of Globatalent, Sunil. Sunil, how are you doing today? It is demo day. How are you feeling about everything?
I'm feeling so good and excited, and I really appreciate all the work done. So thanks very much, Start Bootcamp, for this opportunity, and I really enjoy it. So fun.
So look, we're going to go through on a lot more detail. Everybody got a little taste of what Globatalent is all about during your pitch, which is a great pitch, by the way. Not too shabby to have an Olympic gold medalist introing you. That had to feel pretty good as well. And I think a perfect explanation of what you guys do. We're going to dig into a lot more detail on that in a second. But before we go any further, tell us about what you've thought of the last 3 months. How have you found the Accelerator process? How have you found the Australian ecosystem?
Well, to be honest, before we joined to Start Bootcamp, we're not sure if an Accelerator program was for a perfect fit for us. But then from different internal conversation with the team, we said yes. Then we started to look the best programs, and that's why we applied for Start Bootcamp Australia, Sport Tech. And to be honest, we really like it. We enjoy a lot. We learn a lot. We really appreciate the level of all the lectures and all the mentors. It has been an awesome 3 weeks. Now, I really recommend to any other startups to join to an Accelerator program. Only make sure that you choose the right one. And for me and for Globatalent, has been a great journey, to be honest, a great journey. And the most important thing is just not 3 months. This carry on and has been told to us for different times that this is not the end. It's just the beginning of something big. Thank you.
Well, Sunil, as a representative of Startup Bootcamp, all I can say is it's been our pleasure. But enough about us. Let's talk about you guys. So let's dig in. So folks, if you're watching from home, thanks for joining. Unfortunately, we're having a bit of an issue with our Q&A. But have no fear. If you have any questions for the Globatalent team, click that email right next to their name in the room, and you can send Sunil an email directly with a specific question. I'm going to do my best to guess what types of questions you guys might ask, and we will go from there. But Sunil, let's start with, how did you guys come up with the Globatalent idea? You talked a bit about this in your pitch. You guys have professional athletes on the team, but can you talk to me a bit about how you guys came up with the idea?
Yes, that's how it comes from a different past experience. I work as a general manager in Europe, in the top European teams, and I scout basketball players for all over the globe. And always I was thinking, why a guy that has born in a developing country has more opportunities than another guy that maybe is living in a country with less economic opportunities. But to be honest, I was so focused on my job, and I didn't care a lot. But always was a key it was key in my brain. Okay, and then 3 years ago, with a very good friend of me, Ferran, and we met for coffee and then for dinner. We were talking about these problems and how we could help sports community, to promote young talent all over the globe. And that's how we start with this idea. Ferran is a former professional basketball player, FC Barcelona, so he also has a lot of experience. He invested about 15 years ago into a tennis player that she had a lot of talent, but she didn't have money. And then, she progressed. So it came through that process, okay? And this is how we develop the idea behind the Globatalent until the process that we are right now.
Awesome. So I guess one of the kind of key questions is, why does the young athlete need Globatalent? What is it that you guys really offer that, one of these teams or one of these athletes, I should say, really needs?
Well, I explain you with few examples. One is the example that I just said in the pitch. David Vega, good tennis player with skills, with the possibility to become top 10 in the ATP ranking in doubles, but he needs money. The ATP rules, ITF rules, International Tennis Federation rules, in terms of points have changed, so you need to travel around the world. So imagine, usually, you used to need between $200,000, $300,000 from 15 years old until you become a professional tennis player. Now, this has changed. Now you need at least 1 million just to become a professional tennis player from 14, 15 years old until 22, 23, for different reasons that we are not going to go deeper. Okay, that's one of the reasons. So 48% of the young athletes, they leave the sports career because they need funds and they can't carry on. And we can think maybe that in football, which is one of the biggest, let's say the biggest sports industry in the world, the people, they don't need it. But in Europe, you don't need it if you want to be a football player, because everywhere you can play football. But if you are in Australia, people is playing football into the academies. If you want to be part of the academy, you have to pay $10,000 at least per year. So if you have money, perfect. But if you don't have, and you have talent,
right,
how do you afford to have $10,000?
Right.
So at the end, become a professional athlete, you need an investment. Otherwise, you will not succeed to become a professional athlete.
And so, okay, I want to come back to the customer acquisition, kind of the understanding more on the athlete side, but you guys call yourselves a neobank. Now that's something near and dear to my heart. I obviously run the FinTech program here, but talk to me about, the connection between what you guys are doing with the talent, and then that jump to neobank. I want to understand, how did you guys get there? How did you decide that was the move? It makes complete sense when you put it together now, but talk me through that journey of how you guys got there.
Yeah, we launched the platform in 2019. So we thought for the typical things, how we achieve B2 athlete acquisition, and how do we achieve B2C acquisition, okay? So in B2 athlete, it was quite simple because we have big and deep network, but then if you want to scale it, you need to do it not through your network. So we went through typical customer acquisition through landings in Google around the world, and it was a great traction. In 1 year, we have more than 800 athletes in our platform registered. So we said, okay, that makes sense. So we have athletes that they are looking for funds raised, and that was awesome. And then we said, okay, B2C. We were offering the opportunity, hey guys, do you want to invest in the nets? Messi in the nets, David Vega in the nets, big names, something like that. So we had good traction. People were registering in our website. Some people were investing. We improved the platform, etc., etc. And our customer acquisition was in B2C was $48. We said, okay, it's not too bad. But then we said, hey, if we want to scale it to 300,000 customers or to 1 million, we need a bunch of money. So how do we achieve that? So we said, hey, why we could, then we make some market tests, market research, and we said, hey, maybe there's an opportunity if we pivot a little bit and we add on top the neobank. Because one thing is everybody, well, at least everybody, 97% of world population likes sport.
Yeah.
So we said, hey, why we don't become the neobank of sports? Okay, so being able to do that, we have the opportunity to offer to sports organizations, national bodies, like any national body, the opportunity to issue their own branded debit card. So let's go for an example. Imagine Tennis Federation. So we have signed a partnership with a national, let's say, Spanish National Tennis Federation. So we issue the debit card, branded debit card of the Tennis Federation. Okay, so we are having customer acquisition on the B2C. Okay, we are reducing the customer acquisition to almost $12, from $48 to $12, and we are acquiring B2C that like sports and like tennis. Okay, now we have customers. Second step is why we don't offer to them the opportunity to buy sports goodies in our partners like Tennis Point and other ones, so they can purchase some tennis goodies at some discounts. Okay, so we are monetizing our customers. Third step, hey, why we don't coach them and train them that they can invest in young tennis players.
Mm-hmm.
Fourth step, we have David Vega. Hey guy, why you don't invest in David Vega? So once you have a customer that is on board with you for 1 year, if you can tell him or her, hey, we have young tennis players that you can invest with, they will. Okay, because they like tennis. So that's how we become a neobank. Okay, for different fields.
Really interesting. So, by the way, if you're just joining us, my name is Brian Collins. I'm interviewing Sunil, one of the co-founders at Globatalent. If you have any questions, it looks like the Q&A might be working. Go ahead and try and drop it in there. But if it's not, don't worry. Just press that email button next to Sunil's name, and that way it'll go directly to him, and he'll answer you in his own time. But before we go any further, Sunil, okay, now I want to ask, so, you've created this marketplace, this neobank, you've created this this platform between your guys' selves as the interim, you have the athletes, you have people who can invest directly into the athletes, you have people that you have these connections with the partners. Where are you guys going from here? I mean, this is talk to me about, actually, before we get there, talk to me about some of the traction that you've seen over just the last year, because you only launched in 2019.
In the last year, we had more than 25,000 sports fans registered in our platform. We had, during the last year, almost 2,000 paid customers that invest in different athletes. And since we launched the neobank functionality in middle May of 2020, we have an amazing traction. We are growing more than 150% per month in terms of paying customers.
150% per month.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. We are so. I mean, we were thinking, to have a great growth, but we never thought to have 150% an average per month since May. So we're happy on that. And the good thing is that we are monetizing already our fan sports that were registered. So we are increasing paid customers per month and adding on top of that different others revenue streams. So we are quite excited. And also we have signed some partnerships with different national bodies, and sports organizations like Johan Cruyff Institute and others national bodies that will allow us to increase our registered users by the end of this year for more than 50,000.
So let's come back to the revenue that you guys are generating. Talk to me about the business model of Globatalent. Like, how does Globatalent make money? But also, I mean, how do the athletes make money off of this? Can you walk us through both of those business models a little bit?
Yeah. So let's go first for the athlete's way. So let's say that you are an athlete that needs $500, or let's say $50,000 for the next 2 years to carry on your sports career, for pay coaches or for any other expenses. So you can go to Globatalent platform, say, hey, I need $50,000 and I don't have money, but I'm a good tennis player, and probably in the next 3 years I'll be in top 150, so I will make some money, and I want to sell future part or future income or future percentage of my earnings. So basically, he goes to a platform, he registers, he said that he needs $50,000. Then one of our validators in tennis make sure that this tennis player has the right talent and the right projection. Okay, and if he fits all our requirements, then we announce him on the platform. Okay, so what he's selling is 10%, 50%, 15%, 20% of his future earnings. Let's say tennis player is he's selling 10% of his future earnings from 2025 to 2030. So if in that period of 5 years he is making 10 millions and has sold 10% of his future earnings, so 1 million goes to the investors that invest with him 5 years ago. Okay, it's how it works. Okay, usually we are looking for return about 10x, 15x, 17x, so less. Okay,
so it really is kind of the equitizing model that a startup would have in a lot of different ways, but leveraging that on the potential of the athlete. But I think that potential of the athlete is super important here, because when you do this with a startup, for example, there's certain key fundamental aspects, foundational aspects that you can look at. You can look at the business model and the scalability. You can look at the market problem. With the athlete, it kind of comes down to the athlete, the individual, right? It comes down to maybe knowledge of the game as well. But how do you guys really look at potential? How do you rank potential? How do you understand the potential of the athlete? Because I think that's so important for this platform.
Yes, for us, it's so when somebody asks me that question, I'm always thinking, why they ask me that? Because for us, it's so easy because we are used to that. I mean, for me, it's more complicated to understand the KPIs of a startup than for an athlete. For an athlete, it's so easy. I mean, tennis player has to have height and weight, in this range, typical things. Okay, but then talent. I mean, that's why we use scouts and validators. So we have different validators and different scouts for every sport that make sure that this guy fits the right skills, okay? Not only physical skills, physical, mental, and environment skills, okay? To succeed, to become a professional tennis player or professional athlete, okay? So that's why for us it's so important to have the right scouts for every sport. So right now we are focused on football, golf, tennis, cricket, and basketball, because we have great scouts for that sport. So when it comes to an athlete, we make sure that it fits with the right skills to become a professional player or professional athlete.
You talk about the importance of having the right talent inside of Globatalent to find the right talent outside of Globatalent. You guys obviously just announced a pretty exciting hire with Javier Saviola coming in to head your football part of the business. How did that come about? Question number one. And question number two, what is the importance of having people like Javier, who knows really deeply the sport? What is the importance of having them connect in? And then I'll ask a couple other follow-up questions after that, because I think this is a really important thing for people to understand.
Yes, I mean, Javier jumped into the Globatalent as an investor first. So we approached him, saying, "Hey, we are Globatalent. We are doing what we're doing. Maybe are you interested to invest?" And he said, "Yes, I want to invest in Globatalent because I think it's a great idea, great team, and it makes a lot of sense in the sports industry. He comes from Argentina. He played for River Plate, so he knows how the football industry works perfectly, and the difficulty of young athletes to become professional football players." So he said, "Yes, I want to invest, but if I invest, I want to be involved. Not in terms of money or salaries, all these kind of things. No. He is more like American way of thinking. Okay, you know that a lot of NBA or NFL athletes they invest in startups, but they are active part of the startups. So he said, "Hey, I want to be active part of the Globatalent, and I want to help you. So let me know how I can help you." So we said, "Hey, why you don't help us to be the head of football in Globatalent. I mean, you're perfect fit for that. He said, okay. So he invested, and then he became the head of football of Globatalent. So for us, it's so awesome to have a guy like Javier being part of Globatalent. So this is the how was the process, okay? And because in Europe, usually athletes are saying, hey, I can be part of the startup, give me equity, and I allow you to use my image.
Yeah, right.
We are that kind of things. I mean, one of the founders is a very famous basketball player, Ferran. So, and he makes money and he's part of the team. So it doesn't work like that.
So if you're just joining us, my name is Brian. I'm interviewing Sunil, one of the co-founders at Globatalent. We've been having a great conversation around how they acquire users, the incredible traction that they've had over the past year. I think we learned 150% growth, which is pretty incredible, month on month, which is great. We've talked about some of the fantastic acquisitions they've been able to make, how they've tied the neobank into all of this, and some of the exciting announcements they've had, including bringing in a really exciting new head of football. But Sunil, I guess the other question that we're just kind of touching on, you're talking about some of the talent inside of Globatalent. How important do you think it is to have, so you've got Javier, who's your head of football, you have one of your co-founders who's a very famous basketball player. How important is it to have that founding team here with a strong knowledge of the sport? How important is it for them to understand the sport and the industry, and most importantly, the potential? Does that give you guys a specific edge?
Yes, I think so, because we have noticed that when I'm talking with a manager of a club or executive of a club, we are talking the same language. I know the barriers and the problems that they have in the sports industry. So, I give them some confidence because we are talking the same way. And the same happens when Ferran is talking with some athletes. I mean, Ferran being a former professional basketball player, the way that he talks is the same way that athletes talk. So, they are the same family, okay? So that's give us a little bit of advantage, and especially because allows us to really understand the sports industry in the right way. I mean, the sports industry is so big and specific, so you have to know the language that people talk in different parts of the sports industry. So it has been a very, very helpful advantage having a team with a lot of knowledge in the sports industry.
And so the two more sections of questions I want to ask, and we're getting some questions in the Q&A, and then we'll switch over to that. But so having that talent, that experience in sports is super important. But let's talk about your experience in startups, because that's a huge important too. I'd say part of the business is knowing the sports industry, part of the business is knowing the startup industry. Can you talk to us a bit about some of the experience that the founders have? Have you guys made any exits?
Yeah. Me as an entrepreneur, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 21, something like that, 21. So when I finished my SBC in sports management, I built up, I built up a ticketing company. It was a joint venture, okay? And then, I helped in that joint company was a tech company with myself. So we built a ticketing system that in 2001 allowed you to choose the seat and resell the seat. So things that right now are very common, okay? But in 2001 were not, especially in Europe. So after 3 years, we sold that to La Liga, and that was in 2003. And then in 2005, I built up a hedge fund that we were investing in young athletes. So basically what we were doing is to buy sports image rights from very young, talented basketball players and football players.
So you were Globatalent back in the agency days, essentially, before. So you've got some experience with this.
Yes, and that was one of the initial thoughts that we had when we built Globatalent, because we used that experience to build Globatalent. When I had the hedge fund, then we grow so quick, over 25 million pounds per year, and we said, but then we sell the company, but the major concern was scalability because it was 2004, 2005.
Right.
So now in 2018, 2019, technology has changed and allows you to scale everything, almost everything.
And we've had this conversation before, which is really what you guys are doing is digitizing the agent model, right? And having that experience, you realize it's just a middleman approach, like so many other of the big disruptive startup spaces. So I think it's really cool what you guys are doing. Look, one final question from me before I start to jump over to the Q&A, but it's got to be asked: how does Globatalent work in a situation like COVID? Are you guys just kind of paused and hanging out until you're ready to jump back in? Does something like Globatalent work with the pandemic that we see unfolding? Is this something that puts you guys back on the back burner from a timing perspective? What does this mean for the future of Globatalent?
Well, to be honest, unfortunately, COVID-19 is struggling a lot the sports industry. So, but from our side, we have increased and growth a lot. And the reason is very simple. COVID-19 doesn't allow athletes to travel around the world. Competitions are locked down. So clubs and athletes need funds. And we are the perfect solution for that. So we have increased demand per month over 300%. So athletes, they are struggling. And they're asking for funds because, let's say, doesn't matter the sports, the sport is just locked down. So yeah, we are lucky in terms of business, but I'm not happy because, people from the sports industry is struggling. But in our case, we have more demand than the ones that we had before COVID-19.
Great. So I guess the key thing to take away there is, even though you're talking about a whole new way of financing, that whole new way of financing is still working during the time of COVID, yeah?
Yeah, because COVID doesn't allow you to play or football or basketball or wherever, okay? But money is there. People want to invest, so it's very simple.
Awesome. Well, again, folks, if you're just joining in, we're interviewing Sunil, one of the co-founders of Globatalent. If you have any questions, drop them into the Q&A. I'm about to start going through those right now. Sunil, I think he'll be happy with some of these questions. This question coming in, I love this question. How does an individual invest in your company? That's question number one. And how is future revenue of the athlete shared? So can you walk us through kind of the user journey of how somebody actually invests? I think they're asking about investing in the individual, in the player, and then how is that future revenue of the athlete shared?
Okay. So if you want to invest in athletes that we have in our platform, it's very simple. Download the app. Once you have downloaded the app, you go to our sport platform. You can see our portfolio of athletes. You can invest, as many athletes as you want. The minimum investment is $100, American dollars, and every single athlete has his own bio in the app. Saying who they are, who recommend that guy, which percentage he will give you back from the earnings, expecting revenues, and also gives you approach returns. So let's say this guy, tennis player, saying that he's selling 20. Very simple example. David Vega is offering 18% of ATP prize money from 2022 to 2030. So that represents 10x if he achieves the goals. Okay, that's very easy. So you invest, one click, boom, you have invested already. From revenue streams. So once the athlete gets the money, let's say David Vega at the middle of 2022, he declares all the incomes of the year, okay, and deposit 18% of that into Globatalent. and Globatalent distribute that amount into the investors. Okay, so you have your account in Globatalent, you have your returns or your investment or your shares in Globatalent app. Okay, and this is all. Everything is under an agreement. Okay, and between the tennis player and the investor.
Okay. And I think you said earlier when we were talking, typically you're thinking returns will be coming in like any kind of early stage investment, probably 3 to 5 years later.
Yes, we are trying to reduce that time. So now we have reduced to 15, 18, 20 months since you invest. Okay, so because we want to reduce that period. So we are curing more athletes a little bit older than what we used to, and that's what we are approaching.
Awesome. So I got another question from the Q&A. This one we kind of already answered, or for the first part of it, but how do you decide which athletes can be on the application? You guys are doing all this scouting and incredible work around both technologically speaking and individually speaking. I love that blended approach that you guys are doing. I think it's so powerful. But the other question that I think is really good is, which sports do you plan to grow into? And actually, that's probably a question we didn't ask. So what sports is Globatalent currently focused on? We've talked about basketball and football, but are there other sports you're currently focused on? What are you planning on expanding into?
Right now, we are focused on football, golf, tennis, basketball, and cricket. The reason of football is obvious. Basketball is because we have a deep network in basketball. Golf and tennis, they are global and everybody understands how it works. And cricket, because since we are in a startup bootcamp, our next big market that we want to approach is India. So cricket in Australia is a good approach. So that's the reason. And then other sports that we are looking to be part of that is baseball, because it has a lot of potential as well, and it's a big sport in different parts, in states and also
baseball really lends itself well because of the junior leagues and some of the farm leagues. You can really watch that player come across.
Yeah. So those are the sports that we are approaching right now.
Perfect. And in the future, so you want to be focusing more on cricket, more on baseball? Is there any other sports that you guys are looking at?
Well, we are open to any other sports, but to be honest, we want to keep focus on growth, and to be able to focus, we want to keep in those sports. Maybe 1 year ago, we were thinking any sports, but right now we are focusing in that sports because in 2021 we want to be in India, and cricket has to be one of our main sports. So that's the main reason.
Yeah, I just think of stories like some F1 drivers come to mind, and Kobe Bryant comes to mind of, these folks have really kind of plucked out of obscurity and then suddenly become the best in the game. And Globatalent just makes complete sense for something like this. Look, 2 more questions that have come in. What aspect, we kind of just talked about this, but what aspects of the Australian market do you think Globatalent will be able to contribute to? We talked about cricket and the excitement there. Is there any other parts of specifically Australia you're excited about?
Yeah, and I think that motorsports in Australia is a big opportunity, and especially because they need funds until almost late stage of the career of the driver. So motorsports is one of the prospects that we are looking for, and also we announcing the digitalization of the membership card. So that's mean that any national body will allow to issue digital membership cards through Globatalent. So that will allow us, and especially national bodies, to understand more their customers and how they act, where do they purchase and monetize memberships.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Look, folks, we're coming up to the end of our time. If you have any other questions, drop them in the Q&A, or if you want to be in touch with Sunil directly, click on his email button right at the bottom of this page and get in touch with him directly. I think what they're doing is absolutely incredible and worth having a deeper conversation. Sunil, 2 more questions, one from the Q&A, and then I want to have a final closer with you. But somebody asked, what was the most beneficial aspect of joining this Accelerator program, but specifically around developing Globatalent? So what was the most interesting part of the program for you?
For me, the most interesting part was to be able to understand the full ecosystem of the startups world, okay, in terms of how to grow, okay, because at the stage of our company, we are ready to grow. And to be honest, the lecturing and the lectures from the Startup Camp helps us a lot how to focus in this part of the business that we are right now. So that's what we really love. Secondly is that right now we are ready for growth, and we have prepared every single thing, all the metrics and all the team. The team is ready for sales and focus on growth. So hopefully in the next months we will be able to show these metrics and be able to engage other people as well.
So Sunil, here's my last kind of closing question. Thank you so much for answering all these questions. These have been fantastic. Thanks everybody for watching. Hope you guys have enjoyed. Haven't asked you this one, haven't prepared you for it. This is going to be totally off the cuff. I'm very excited for it. But Sunil, what I think you guys are doing from a mission perspective is so powerful, because you're really helping to build up the equity and the value in young athletes and young players. As an American, as somebody from the US, you know, I've watched young players from American football, from baseball, you know, have to go through all the hoops, pun intended, of trying to make it through, you know, into the national sports leagues. Here's my question, because of your guys' experience and what you're doing. What's your advice for the young athlete as they're starting to make their way in the world? What's the one thing that you wish more young athletes really thought of as you're trying to get involved, whether with them or just what's your kind of one piece of advice on how they can be successful, or how they can move forward on their journey?
Well, our main advice is train as hard as you can and study as hard as you can, okay? Because not everybody can become the next Roger Federer or Rafa Nadal, okay? So make sure that you train as much as you can, as hard as you can, but also study as much as you can. And then if you have talent, sports talent, then it will show up. And make sure you take care about your environment, and that's it. But basically, study as hard as you can and train as hard as you can. Very easy.
Take care of your mind, take care of your body. I love the way you think, Sunil. So I want to thank everybody for joining. This has been the live Q&A with Sunil, one of the co-founders from Globatalent. This is the end of our demo day, and we hope that you guys enjoyed it. We hope you enjoyed the comeback. It's been a pleasure putting this together for you. And if you have any questions, make sure you smash that email button at the bottom of this screen. Send them to Sunil, and we will go from there. Everybody, I want to thank you all for your time. My name is Brian Collins, and I'll talk to you all soon. And one more big giving it up for Sunil.